National Fire Protection Agency. Okay, so one of the things this standard did is it changed some of our other standards, and this is one of the big ones. This is how we used to look at flammable liquids. I used to call them 1A, 1B, 1C, 2, and it depended on what category it was in, what kind of protections have to be on it. So this is the old system. It had 6 categories, and they were based on boiling point and flash point. So a 1A is something that has a flash point below 73 degrees and below 100 degrees Fahrenheit boiling point. Well, the new system reassigned these things a little bit. This is what the new one looks like. We lowered this to 95 degrees between these 2 categories, so the boiling point's 5 degrees lower, and we come up with some really spunky numbers on this, and it's because the GHS system, Global Harmonization System, is in centigrade now, not Fahrenheit. If you convert this to centigrade, it comes out to an even number. So we have to deal with 73.4. Anyway, now we have 4 classification categories instead of 6. They combine some and move things around a little bit. So here's the old one. We went up, 200 degrees. There's the new one. So you can see things are just a little bit different. Anyway, this is an example of one of the other standards in the book that the GHS system didn't really set out to change, but they did because of the hazard classification system in the appendices of that standard. Okay, so does anybody have any questions? We finally got to the end. Do you feel like you learned something today? I hope you did. And I hope you don't go screaming from the room, oh no, chemicals, they're bad. They're not bad, it's just the poison is in the dose. Remember that. And read your safety data sheets. Ask for them. Your employer should have them on hand. Many employers have them on a shared database. So all employees have this F drive or whatever it is on their computer. They can get the safety data sheet on there. Or some of them put them in a 3-ring binder. Go read them for things that you deal with. They come up with some really interesting information. And if in doubt, ask for them when you get a chemical at home. You can call that number on the label and get a safety data sheet for any consumer product. And I'll tell you, there's some consumer products out there that are nasty. Nasty things you can buy at the home improvement store or the auto parts store that most employers will not allow in their place anymore because of the problems that they've had. So know what you're dealing with and what you're putting around yourself, and use the PPE if it calls for it. The right PPE, not the kind that will dissolve with this stuff. Okay, any comments, questions? All right, we'll let you go to lunch. Thanks for coming. You're welcome. Make sure that you signed in on the sign-in sheet, or you don't get credit for sitting here for an hour and a half. Yeah, nice. Don't worry.
Come on. Come on. Now you're moving. Okay.
Find out what his schedule is, because it tends to be a little bit crazy.
Did you not sign in?
I did. Sounds good.
Okay. Good to see you. See you guys later.
Hey, have a good drive.
I'm gonna go say hi to Shelly, and then we'll go. Okay. So take care of yourself.
All right, you too. See ya.
Thank you. Ya.
I'm gonna go break sticks or get French fries or do something. What kind of cheese?
You survived.
Yep, survived. Nobody threw tomatoes.
Well, I'm glad nobody threw tomatoes. That would be extremely rude.
Well, it would be.
You want a cold water?
No, nothing over here.
I do have a question.
Uh-huh.
So, you know, you were talking about the dust and the powders. So when you have certain fires, they tell you to throw baking soda on it.
Mm-hmm.
Bad, good? Why?
Baking soda is not a what's it called? Organic material.
Okay.
It's not made of wood. It's not made of a plant.
Mhm.
Baking soda is actually a mineral.
Okay.
And so therefore, there's nothing in it that's a fuel.
Okay. Okay.
And that's why it actually works.
Because it's mineral.
Because it gets in the way between the oxygen and the fuel and just physically separates it. It doesn't do much to reduce the heat. If you're throwing water on a fire, what that really does is it takes the heat away. Because water absorbs heat really well, and it will take heat into it, and that's what's actually stopping the fire. The heat is being absorbed. Baking soda or other, if you have a dry chemical or fire extinguisher, is like baking soda.
Oh.
And what it does is it physically gets between the fuel and the oxygen, and it basically coats the fuel, and it's not a burnable material.
Okay.
There are some fire extinguishers and fire extinguishing systems that use a foam, and what that does is it physically gets between the air and the fuel, and it also absorbs lots of heat because it has water in it, and it stays on the fuel better than just pouring water. Water rolls off.
Right.
So foam is used to help the heat dissipation and to physically get in between the oxygen and the fuel.
Okay.
So yeah, baking soda is a good thing, and most people don't realize that it's not organic, it's a mineral.
Well, yeah, we were just back there thinking it's a powder.
It is a
It's
powder.
a dust, but yet it stops fires because we've all
Yeah.
had little fires on our stove and.
Not all powders are combustible. It has to start out being a combustible that you ground it up into a powder from. So sugar is a combustible. Any organic thing, anything that was once alive is a combustible.
Okay.
So coal, wheat, corn stalks, corn, any of those things were once alive. If it's a powder of something that's not alive, like rocks, baking soda,
I've never thought about the composition of baking soda.
yeah,
Never
it's a
have.
mineral. It's not organic.
Okay, that makes sense.
And it's what you're doing when you put it in what we eat. What the purpose of baking soda and baking powder is to get in there, interact with the water, and make bubbles so that stuff rises. And that's what we put it in there for.
Is a leavening agent.
It's a leavening agent.
Okay.
And it's like, those pop rocks you can buy. They're a mineral, and you add water, and they're basically doing the same thing. Anything like that, it's a chemical reaction. But yeah, every dust is not combustible.
Okay.
And that's why they test them in the OSHA lab. Because we don't know. For instance, I came across an employer that was making these countertops out of, it was a combination of ground up quartz and a binding agent that was basically a type of plastic. And so I didn't know
I'm just leaving.
Leave a check in the secretary's office. I was bringing you a check.
Yeah, or will you be here tomorrow?
Yep.
Get with me tomorrow. I'll be
Okay.
here in the morning.
Thank
So
you.
in that situation, I didn't know if it was a combustible dust or not, because
Sure.
it's got quartz in it, which isn't combustible. But it has this binding agent that is essentially a polymer, an oil-based, because all polymers have some sort of, you can tie them back to some sort of oil, whether it's an animal oil or something organic or not organic, like crude oil. Polymers all have some sort of oil derivative. And so I was trying to figure out, are these countertops, because they grind them and they cut them and they have dust all over the place, is this a combustible dust? So I gathered up a sample of it and sent it to the lab. And some of it was and some of it wasn't. It depended on how much of that quartz was in it.
Oh, really?
So if it was more polymer than quartz, then it was combustible. And if it was more quartz than polymer, it wasn't. So there was some line in there somewhere where there's a combustible dust or there isn't one. Anyway, and maybe that's why they're having such a hard time figuring out what to do with the standard on it. But anyway, not every dust is combustible.
I will tell everybody.
If it's a rock dust, it's probably not. Well, coal isn't a rock.
It does.
Coal was originally alive. It's just really compressed. Coal is essentially really compressed old rainforest, or something like peat box. You know, it's really compressed, and all that's left is carbon out of those originally living things, but it is organic. Anything organic can be combustible.
See, and my home had a coal furnace. Smoked a lot.
Oh yeah, those are miserable.
And I'm to the point now where if I get exposed to coal smoke, this skin right here will blister.
yeah,
And
so
now I
you
have asthma.
you have a sensitizer.
Yep.
You have been sensitized to that, and probably, well, for
An
sure,
allergic.
the rest of your life, you're gonna
Yep.
have to not be around that.
Exactly. So, so when you said that, it was like, oh, I have that.
Yeah, it's not uncommon. People don't realize that stuff like that can sensitize them for life.
I've never heard of it before.
So another one that's a real common sensitizer that's come out now, you know this spray in urethane foam that they're sealing houses with
Yeah.
now? One of the things that goes into that is called toluene diisocyanate, TDI. It's one of the ingredients. There's another ingredient. They mix them together. It makes that urethane foam. That TDI is a sensitizer for everybody. It's just, what is your threshold?
Really?
Someday you will become allergic to it if you're exposed to it enough, and usually it's sooner than later. So it's not a problem if you spray it in and let it breathe. So if I have a new home and I spray that in, it's fine, as long as somebody let it breathe before they sealed it in there.
Oh. And where do they use this?
They use it as an insulator in the wall instead of that, you know, fiberglass insulation. And it's a great sealer.
But
They
it has to
spray it
breathe.
on. Once it's been mixed up and it's urethane, the solid, stuck to the wall, it no longer has that sensitizer off-gassing. I mean, once you've put it on the wall, it's taken part A, part B, and now we've got something totally unrelated. As long as you let it off-gas so that it gets rid of anything that didn't react,
Okay.
it's fine. It won't continue to release TDI. But if you spray it on, then you immediately seal the wall, what you're going to do is you're going to create it slowly leaking out this TDI and be a sensitizer for
Well, see,
whoever
that's good
lives
to know
there.
because my daughter wants to build a house in the future.
So,
it's like, okay.
you know, that's a good product as long as they let it breathe,
And air out.
air out. Let it air out for, you know, a while, a week, whatever.
Yeah.
After that, go ahead and build the wall.
Okay. All right, well, thank you.
Uh-huh. Whew.
Thank you.
Marathon.
Yes, definitely marathon for you.
So I hope they got something out of it.
Well, I'm sure they did. So, are you able to head for home, or do you have other stops you
No,
gotta do?
I get to go home and just chill because I got up so flippin' early this morning.
Sorry you were waking up to make it home okay?
Oh, yeah. But
Hopefully you missed
I'll be
the
going
rush
to
hour.
bed early. I have to go do a presentation tomorrow for Salt Lake County. I guess they get all their employees in their public works together once a year in the spring, and they have like this big training thing. They have, I don't know, 200 or 300 employees just in that department. And so they asked me to come and present on general safety, not any particular OSHA topic. So I hope I put something together that they liked.
And so is that a day-long thing that they do for their people?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they said, hey, once you're done presenting, you want to just put together a table and, have stuff. And so I said, whatever, okay. So I use a lot of, when I'm teaching 10-hour classes, I use a lot of things, like electrical stuff we've found in various places that don't comply with standards. And so I use them as teaching aids, because I hate to stand and yak at people forever. I think it's a lot more fun if I can put some sort of interesting things, or make people do something, exercise-wise that makes them think. And then it's not just me talking to them all the time. It's hard to do with HASCOM. If I have a large block of time, sometimes I'll print off an SDS and then give them a sheet that says, okay, find all this stuff on this SDS. And that's actually a good exercise, but it takes probably about half an hour. And so if it's a longer period, that I'll often do that. Like if we had 2 hours, I would do that kind of thing, make them work.
Earn their keep.
Yeah, not fall asleep.
Do you want a cinnamon roll to go?
Oh, no, thanks. I had one. Appreciate it. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you, Evelyn. So, what do I need to do to follow up to?
Just fill out the 3 little things. We had training on this day, and I've got copies of the training things, so you can send that.
you.
Maybe they keep it